So I literally just got back filming the conclusion of the second Surron build video, and the UPS driver was just outside the door with these bad boys. UPS? Sound low? Yeah. Now I've been waiting a while for these, and these are also one of the subjects of today's third and final Surron build video that I'm doing for you guys. And it will also be the channel's first official unboxing of a product. So I can't wait to see what's inside here and finish that bike. So let's get this box open and see what's inside. Now, I don't have any fancy kind of knife for unboxings yet, but I have this utility knife and I think that'll work. So just a cut here, a cut here maybe, and a cut here. And there we go. Oh yeah, I ordered this Alta race throttle. This thing looks to be really well built. I think this is better than that Domino, but I don't know. We'll save this for later. And here is, oh, these are some mounting brackets. Oh, okay, here they are. Here is the main thing that I ordered. I chose these because they're really beefy and they look pretty sick. Now what these things do is they move the seat on the bike a little bit back and a little bit up. Because on the Surron, the distance between the seat and the pegs is actually really cramped. And this part is the top brackets for where the battery lid goes. Because right now there's a gap between the battery lid and the frame. But when I move the seat back and up, actually that gap should close and these brackets will help. So let's see what else. Oh yeah, and this one is, this will relocate the battery lid lock. This will relocate that along with the seat new position. Oh yeah, these are super nice. They're really beefy. And they're gonna look sick on the bike, I think. So let's go get this third Surron build video started and get these on the bike and see if they can solve the problem of not having enough room between the pegs and the seat. Before I can install these brackets, I'm gonna need to remove these 3 bolts on both sides. And I can do that with a 5mm and 4mm hex. And then afterwards, I will reuse these bolts on this side of the brackets. And then I will use the bolts that came in the kit to attach the seat subframe to the end of the bracket and also the battery lid. I want to remove this battery first so I can have more room to work. I'll trip the breaker here and then disconnect the battery. And let's get this out. So we got a 4mm and 2 5mm on each side that need to come off. And do the other side too. They do use a lot of Loctite from the factory, so you got to use some force to get it to break. Now I have the 2 main 5mm bolts off on both sides, and I'm going to remove this 4mm. And then there's 2 bolts on the inside of here that got to come out. And I'll show you a better angle of those when I remove them. All right, now there's just 2 more bolts in here that need to come out. The space is pretty tight. I need to use this bit to get these screws out. There. Now with those 2 bolts removed, I can pull this seat back and install the brackets. This cable's for the brake light, which was already removed, so that should be fine. I got more than enough room now to put those brackets. Now I have this bracket removed, but I still need this up here. I need these 4 mounting locations to keep all of this together here, this cover that goes over the locking mechanism and holds everything to the seat. And I saw on some extender installs that other guys did, they leave this thing just hanging down. because it used to be inside of here, but now it's out more. So rather than do that, because that doesn't look very good, I'm just gonna cut it right here using my chop saw, and then I can still have this bracket to keep all of this tight on the top, but then I don't have to see this part hanging down. So I think I'm gonna hit it with my chop saw right here and right here. This should work. I'll just file this down a little bit so the edges aren't so rough. Now I can use this to refasten the locking mechanism back down to the seat frame, and I won't have that long metal piece sticking down. I'm just gonna hit this with some spray because it's wet in Taiwan and bare metal usually will get rust on it. I just wanna seal that up. Now we can put this back on the bike. And I'll use these nuts to secure this locking mechanism back down on the seat frame. And now I just need to tighten that back up. Then I can secure this plastic piece back down and put the extenders on. The paint's dry on this bracket. Now I can bolt all this back together and remove these two nuts that I put on there to kind of half-ass hold everything back together. So I'll put the bracket back here on top and then underneath, and I can tie all these parts back together before I install those two large brackets. Now I went ahead and removed these plastic covers from here, the lock cover, because it's kind of getting in my way. And here's the bracket that I cut. And so this will go here, and then the bracket will come underneath like that to lock it in place. And this bracket will tie all these parts together. Now with these two plastic lock cover pieces reinstalled on the top side, all I need to do is put two bolts in through here, and then all these pieces will be tied together. And then I can go ahead and put the seat brackets on. I won't make them super tight. I'll leave them just a little bit loose so I can still wiggle things around here, make it fit. Now that this underside is all complete, I can flip it over and put the main brackets on and get this seat mounted. But again, these are just a little bit loose. With the seat out of the way, I can install the left side main bracket for the extender, and it's gonna go right here. And I will use the bolts that came with the kit for this. And then the bolts that attach from here to the seat, I will use the stock bolts. And then I'll just tighten them down till they snug up against the plate. But I won't fully tighten everything just yet because I want it all to fit together first. That's good. I'll go put the bracket on the other side now. And the same deal, I will use the bolts that came with the kit to mount it to the frame. And I will use the stock Surron bolts to mount the seat bracket. I think that's good enough for now. With the two main brackets installed, I can now put the seat back and attach the seat subframe to here. And you can see it's going to go right there. So I'll use the stock bolts for that. Put some Loctite, as always. And yeah, we'll just snug these up. Again, leave everything a little bit loose so I can do a final tighten afterwards. I'll go put these two bolts in on the other side now. This bracket is used to secure this battery locking lid mechanism, and it will go right here. And I will use the bolt that came with the kit for down here and the stock bolt for up here. The stock Surron torque spec for these two bolts is 20 Newton meters. So I'm just going to use that for all 4 of these bolts on both sides. And I will do the same for these 2 bolts, 20 Newton meter. And I will use 10 Nm on both of these bolts as well. These 2 bolts are plastic on metal, so you don't really want to torque these too tight. Just go hand tight on these. Because if you go too tight, this will deform and pull in. The only thing left to do is to just tighten these screws up underneath here that I had left loose when I installed that bracket that I cut. Because now everything's assembled and torqued and I can finally tighten all these screws underneath here. So I'll do that real quick. The seat and brackets are fully installed. Everything's torqued down. And there's one last thing to do. You can see when the battery lid comes down, it doesn't quite make the lock anymore because this whole assembly has moved back. So now, so here's the old lid lock, the extended one, because there was that gap. I don't need to use that anymore. And here's that chopped piece now. And you can see this would have been the old lid lock location, but it's offset maybe about 1 inch. So now I'll be back here. And that should give me just enough. So let's get this mounted onto here and then get this piece mounted on the underside of that lid. I'll leave this just a little bit loose so I can line it up. And then here's where it'll mount to the underside of the lid. Now the last step is to just install this lid lock right underneath the lid right there with these 2 bolts. I'll leave everything just a little bit loose. Oh wow. I couldn't imagine it would fit any better. So the last thing to do is just tighten all this stuff up. And the seat bracket install is finished. Not too much. Bike looks great, right? It's got a frame profile just like a dirt bike now. The distance between the seat and the pegs is a lot more. I sat on it earlier. It feels absolutely perfect. I highly recommend seat extenders if you're over 6 feet tall and you have a Surron. Now I still have the Hope Tech 4 V4 brakes to do, and I got everything over here ready to go, but I'm gonna save it for the next video because I don't wanna make this video too long. I'm also gonna put an Enjoy gripper seat cover on. That should help me from sliding off the back when I'm doing really high wheelies. It's got these ribs on it, so that should be pretty nice. And that'll do it for this build. The next one I'm gonna do will be the off-road one. I got the flow wheels. I got some other suspension parts already. I just need to get the bike. So tell me what you wanna see me build. You wanna see an E-Ride Pro? You wanna see a Talaria? You wanna see another Surron? I can do any of them. As long as I can mod it, that's all I care about. So, see you guys in the next one.